school is out for the summer, many kids and teens lose some important structure in their daily lives. So we're getting some strategies parents can use from our friend, psychologist Dr. Rich Hall. My teen just wants to sleep all the time in the summer. Teenage boys, I tell you what.
Yes.
Let's talk about social media, though, because it's such a big concern for parents. The Surgeon General says there's a youth mental health crisis. Do you agree with that? How big of a problem is it, especially in summer when kids have more time?
I do agree that it is a bit of a problem when there's more unstructured time. That was definitely a lesson I learned at the beginning of the quarantine. Like, not having enough time or not having the structures means they just kind of bleed into everything else. And so one of the things that can happen is, you know, parents who are working from home, parents who are busy, you just kind of throw a device at your kid and say, be quiet for the time I'm at work. Which can lead to them just sort of getting lost in these worlds where there's a lot of criticism, a lot of things being sold to them, a lot of bullying, and it can really take its toll on mental health.
So let's talk about some strategies for dealing with the social media. One thing, there's a bill at the legislature that says parents are going to have to give consent for their kids to even use it at a certain age. Do you think that's important, and what are some other ways to maybe deal with it and mitigate it?
I do think parents need to be aware of what age children start using certain social medias, and I don't know that it needs to be necessarily legislated, but I do think that parents need to stay on top of, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that young children would have exposure to that they shouldn't at certain ages, and so we need to be aware of that, and parents need to be watching what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of people say parents should have the passwords, parents should be the ones downloading the apps, things like that.
Yeah, you should make sure that you are monitoring, particularly at different ages. For teenagers, and once they get a little older, they're going to resist that. But for definitely younger kids, make sure that you have the passwords to the accounts they're using and awareness of whether or not they can message people on there, what type of messaging they're doing, things like that.
So we were just talking during the break about the shortage in therapists and mental health experts right now. The CDC says only about 15% of U.S. children are getting treatment for mental health disorders. Does that seem like a really low number for the number of kids who need help?
Not really. Like, every kid doesn't necessarily need a therapist. Some kids are plugged into like religious institutions or groups or activities, a teacher that they care about, a family member. So a lot of the ways our mental health concerns are taken care of are through sort of non-traditional, more familial means. But there are still kids and parents who are desperate to get their kids into help that unfortunately might not have access for a variety of reasons.
We'll talk about resources in a minute, but let's talk about some positive ways for us to engage kids and get them away from the social media for a little bit.
Yeah, I think, you know, being creative as best you can. I remember my mom used to do things like write us codes. Right, so she'd have a code, and then she'd give you like a code cracker, and then you'd have to figure out what the message was. Now, sometimes the message was, remember to take out the trash. But it was still fun, a fun way to sort of get us involved and engaged. And there, you know, the internet is full of just different ideas, you know, Play-Doh days, going outside, chalking the driveway days, getting them into an activity. Like, it's going to involve you as a parent putting down the work, putting down your social media to engage your children in creative and fun ways.
Well, you see so many times when someone's at the park with their child and they're on their phone.
Right.
Mirroring is a really good thing too, right? Yeah.
Show them that there are times we put this down and we engage, we connect with each other, and then there are times where, you know, mommy wants to disconnect, daddy wants to disconnect for a little bit. But this is sort of, it's that age old, this is the one time they're this age, and so if you let it fly by because you're checking your Instagram, you're going to miss a lot.
Oh, that's true. You will miss a lot. And if parents do want to find some resources for maybe tips, activities, a mental health expert, where should they look, Dr. Hall?
I definitely say online. There are many different websites for parenting and creative parenting. None of them are coming to mind right now, but I do trust Google, and AI is pretty good for generating ideas. So ChatGPT, I've used that a couple times to give me some ideas for things when I'm trying to sort of struggle through what should happen. This is not like a full endorsement of ChatGPT, but the idea that it can be helpful to give you some ideas. If you ask Alexa out loud or Siri, they'll give you ideas for things to do with your kids. So just the idea of turning your mind towards what's a creative way to engage my kid, have some fun. There's a lot of stuff out there.